podcast where we reconnect to who we were before the world got their hands on us. I'm your host, Molly Smith, and this week is the second part of the episode that I did with accredited psychotherapist Katie McKenna. She's also co-author of the international best-selling book, You're Not the Problem. If you're interested in that, Katie speaks a lot about narcissistic parents, etc. This episode in particular, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, is covering the wounded healer. As I said in last week's episode, I worked in social care for 12 years and used to be a wounded healer, identified a lot of other people as wounded healers retrospectively, and I wanted to kind of give us a bit of information about how we can give to others and care for others while also looking after ourselves and being able to identify our own needs. And I wanted to have this episode exist in the world because I wanted to just give us some information around why we become these wounded healers. Because oftentimes we can't address something or heal from something if we don't know the why, how we got to this point. So that was my intention with this episode, and I think you'll agree the first part was absolutely incredible. There was many a moment I was like, right, there we are now. Something that has happened in Ireland in the last few weeks is there have been multiple car accidents, road traffic accidents, where teenagers in our country are robbing cars and then driving them down the wrong side of the road and then publishing the videos on TikTok. Now, I think that this is a really appropriate topic to bring into this discussion because we are talking, I did speak about how broken I feel our social care system is because I worked in it for 12 years, and I would like you to know that everything works in systems, okay? So these are not just like one-off incidents where some bold boys are taking cars and driving down the wrong way on the M50. There's a whole system that creates that behaviour. There's a whole system that enables that behaviour. And I am really passionate about fixing systems. When systems don't work and they produce a negative outcome for people, my particular passion is women. But in general, people, because women are affected at every strata of society. If the children are being affected, that's our children. If the men are being affected, that's our husbands, that's our brothers. And we care very much so about what happens to the people in our lives. So for me, it all comes back to women. So, which is why I set up the podcast, etc. Now, let's talk about these boys that are stealing cars and driving down the wrong way on the M50 or the M50, I think it happened on, and the M9. To understand that, we have to understand that years ago, when children behaved badly, they were arrested, beaten, humiliated, put into industrial schools, removed from their family, their human rights were removed, etc. And that was for crimes such as robbing apples, robbing bread to feed your family. That was very, very low level survival crimes, we could call them, because they were literally robbing food. That was the way that Ireland dealt with those issues back then. Similarly to the way the care system operated when we gave the care of the vulnerable people in our society to the church, abuse of all kinds happened there, and deplorable, absolutely deplorable. I am not for a minute saying we go back there. I am very, very strongly saying we do not go back there. However, in my opinion, in terms of the care system and in terms of how we deal with young offenders, the pendulum has swung too far. It's gone too far the other way. Back then, human rights were removed. Human rights were infringed on. And then we set up these systems now that are not operating well either. We set up the care system so that children have all of their rights. However, we didn't take into account parenting, the fact that children need parenting as well as rights. Children need boundaries. They need to be kept safe. They need to be denied access to certain places so that they are safe. There's a lot of young people in care that have access to money and buses, and they're going to places because I'm not even going to say why, for a multitude of reasons to get their needs met. And that often ends in prostitution, that ends in gang behaviour, that ends in hanging around with groups that do not have their best interests at heart and that manipulate them and use them for many things. Children in care are very vulnerable. So when we give children in care all of these rights, there also needs to be responsibility on the state to give to parent as well. And we're really missing that. We're really, really missing that. So that's one part of the care system that's really broken. When we look at the justice system in terms of young offenders, they have so many rights now that they are running lawless. There is again that consideration of parenting is not present. We've given children all of these rights, but we haven't given them the information on values and social responsibility and ethics that will enable them to use those rights in a healthy and a safe way. Personally, I think that Japan has a really good handle on this situation. And I do think that when a country is struggling with a particular area, I think it's common sense and, it's not that difficult to come up with the solution of let's look at countries that are dealing with these very issues very well and let's see how we can replicate those outcomes through our own ways. I'm not saying that we live as Japan lives or that we live as the Netherlands live, because they also deal with this thing very well. I'm saying, can we look at them and see how we could apply that to our Irish culture and take bits and pieces from other places so that we can develop systems that actually work, that actually protect the vulnerable people in our society. And let's be very clear, these boys driving down a motorway the wrong way are vulnerable. They have been misled along the way. There is something that has gone very wrong with their upbringing, their socialization, that they think that putting human lives at risk in such a manner for whatever their motivation is, clicks and likes on TikTok or, admiration from other boys or men, whatever their motivation is, they have been very much so misled. They have not been given healthy boundaries, healthy guidance, an understanding of their social responsibility to their fellow citizens in the country that want to go on their holiday and enjoy their summer and come home safe. They have not been given those things, and their brains are not fully developed. We can't even hold them responsible. So when you see all of the discussion online about parents and that the buck stops with the parents should be doing better, the chances are that this is generational, that this kind of learning of ethics, social responsibility, etc. hasn't been given to the parents. And if in some cases it has been given to the parents and their child has fallen in with the wrong group, there isn't a system then to catch that child and bring them back to the safety of their responsible family. So yes, parents have a role to play, but what if, number one, those parents don't have the education that we want the kids to have? And what if, number two, the parents do have it, but there's a whole system that is pulling their child into the hands of undesirables and people that you would not want your child to be learning from, let alone hanging around with, So I'm very, very interested in how systems operate. Ultimately, all of these systems operate under the patriarchy. Take a drink if you hear me say the patriarchy. The values of a patriarchal society is very much individualistic, competition, domination, keeping men above others in society. If we were to operate under a matriarchal society, we would be operating from matriarchal values. And matriarchal values are very much collaboration, care, prioritizing the needs and development of the children so that they are getting the best upbringing so that they can function as healthy adults in the world, So really everything comes back to the patriarchy. All of the issues that we're facing in society and in the different societies across the world that are leading to war, to abuse, to women not being believed, to the Epstein files, to everything, are because of a patriarchal society. The values are all wrong. We will never have a functioning, well-ran society that is raising well-rounded human beings that are concerned about social responsibility, each other, the environment, community. That's the matriarchy. And listen, I am not. If I could change the world, I would create a matriarchy. I would I would create a world that is based on those values. However, I can only influence what I can influence. So my household runs on matriarchal values. My household runs on the women being prioritized, making sure that the women are cared for, making sure that the women know themselves, know their bodies, know their needs, that the women know how important community is, etc. I can do that where I am. I can also, in the different places that I am in the world, I can also bring in those values. And that's my change in the world. And I would encourage you, as a woman listening to this, to think about how you could influence the areas that you touch in the world, how you could influence them to be more matriarchal and to have more values around the wellness of children, the wellness of women. Because once women and children are looked after, everyone is looked after, because we are giving birth to the men. We are marrying the men. We are in relationships with the men, familial relationships, romantic relationships, platonic relationships. So you might have a little think about it. And it's actually a really nice thing to think about. Like, what is your impact on the world? How do you influence your friend group? How do you, and I don't mean influence in any sort of, change their mind to think like me. It's just your output. Without expecting anything in return, how do you give to other women in your life? How do you address generational things that have come before you so you don't pass them on to your kids? And whether you have the capacity or not, it's not, what you do is good enough. I don't want you to think, oh, I have to live this new way. I am sick of the endless expectations and tasks that we have to do as women. So I'm not adding a task. However, I'm asking you to think through a lens for all the things that you're already doing. Might be nice. Have a think about it. So when we think about this episode and the wounded healer and how we as potentially wounded healers, personally, I definitely was one, how we are showing up in the world and giving to others, I want us to be aware that we can only impact change, we can only do things when we know what our needs are, when we know how to meet those needs. And when we can show our body that it's safe to acknowledge our needs. Because as Katie said in the last episode, in the first part of this conversation, she was saying that oftentimes when you come from a family that asks you to neglect, suppress, doesn't even acknowledge your needs, starting to look at your needs feels like a threat. Your body will feel unsafe in doing so. And we will have this urge to just give, because that's where our nervous system feels comfortable. So if you're thinking about the impact that you can have on the world, we have to know ourselves first. Your only job is to get to know yourself really well and meet your own needs. And when that happens, your creativity comes back. Your sense of joy comes back. You're not constantly moving from crisis to crisis within your family system. Am I talking about myself? Yes. I certainly found when I started to realise what my needs are and how to meet them, I felt as though the next crisis that came up, I know I can name it right now. I was after being invited to a beautiful salon. A woman had reached out to me and said that she was so grateful for the things that I was doing for women, and she wanted to know if I would like to come and have a free haircut and treatment, and for her to treat me really nicely. That was the gorgeous Elaine in the Secret Salon in Dunleer. She was just so kind and generous. And I was going to that day, and a crisis came up in my family. And my family had been treating me very badly. They had not been listening to. I was articulating my worries about something that was going on, and they all just completely denied it, didn't want to know me. My mum ended her relationship with me because I had set a boundary, and all of these terrible things. And it was in that moment that I thought, I have a decision to make here. I either re-enter this cycle. This is me outside the salon about to go in. I either re-enter that cycle of crisis where I go back, we don't address anything that came before, there won't be any amends made, there won't be any apologies given to me, there will be no addressing of the fact that my mum ended our relationship through a text message. My mum, can you imagine getting a text message from your mum to say, I no longer want anything to do with you. And some other insults as well. It was devastating. And at that stage, it had been a few weeks without my mum, and I was devastated. And now the crisis came, and it was like, there's a crisis, go back, go in, you need to go and see your mum. And I thought, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. This is a deciding moment here now. I either go back to this crisis, I re-enter the cycle of denying anything that I feel, not listening to me, and all of my feelings were absolutely reasonable, completely reasonable. And I decided I'm not re-entering that cycle because I've learned about my needs, about my body, about the fact that I'm important. I now don't run from crisis to crisis, denying myself any level of sanity. I very much honour myself now. And I'll remind you about the oath for any new listeners. I spoke on other episodes and I speak on my Instagram about the oath that I took to never ever betray myself again. The way that doctors and nurses say, first, do no harm. That's the start of their oath. As a doctor, a nurse, a medical professional, your oath begins with first, do no harm. As a woman who is healing and learning to love myself and honour myself, my oath is first, don't betray yourself. So whenever I'm faced with a dilemma, do I go left or do I go right? Do I go up or do I go down? Do I go back or do I stay here? I think, what is the option that doesn't betray me? What is the option that honours me first? Because no one else is going to do that. And that has led me to a really healthy, gorgeous life, gals. A very healthy, gorgeous life that has loads of lovely people around me, and you deserve that as well. You deserve that as well. It's very scary to walk away from your family. It's very scary to be excommunicated from the tribe. But when you do it, other people come in and your life becomes full of people that are honouring themselves like you, healthy people. And I want that for all of us. I want that for every single one of us. We deserve it so much. We've spent our whole lives denying ourselves, dishonouring ourselves, betraying ourselves. And I'm done with that life. And I would love for you to be too, because it's really fun. So all that to say, when you are a wounded healer, whether you identify as one or not, if you work in a caring profession, are you given from a healthy place or not? Are you meeting the needs of others while denying yourself the opportunity to go to the toilet? Because that's what it comes down to, gals. Are you meeting your bodily needs, your physical needs, your emotional needs, or are you meeting everyone else's and denying your own? And that's what creates a wounded healer, coming from a household where that was the norm and then living like that as an adult. And I just want everything for you. I want everything. I want you to have the world. You deserve it. So before I give you the second part of this episode, I would like to talk to you about something really quickly, right? I spend hours and hours creating this podcast, and it's free, completely free for you. And I get messages all the time from women saying how helpful the podcast has been, how it has changed something in their life, or they've made a decision that has changed something in their life as a result of something they've heard on the podcast, okay? I still want that to be free. However, I have been working with a business mentor, and because I know what I'm doing is so valuable to women, I don't mind doing it. However, I also have to honour the fact that it takes hours and hours and hours out of my week to create this, edit it, put it up, pay for subscriptions to make clips, put it make sure that I'm posting things online that are beneficial to women. And to honour myself, I have to be earning something from it, because it's not sustainable for me to do it forever for free. This is such a difficult conversation to have. However, when I'm torn between the decision of talking to people about money and honouring myself and all the work that I'm putting in, I'm choosing to honour myself even though it's difficult. So this is an example in real time. So the next season of the podcast may contain ads. I really didn't want there to be ads on the podcast. When I'm listening to a podcast and it's constantly interrupted by ads for all these multinational companies and all, I'm just like, ugh, tap, 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 tappy, tappy, tappy. I don't want to hear it, you know. And specifically, I only want there to be ads that are congruent with my values and my message on Healing Gals. So I don't want there to be ads for aesthetic clinics. I don't want there to be ads for women, you need this another product in order for you to be beautiful, or here, place a bet here, blah blah. I don't want there to be all those ads because that's not congruent with me. But next season I will have to introduce something so that this earns money for me, basically, is what I'm letting you know. So I will appreciate your patience in how I do that, if that's okay. Because this is your podcast that you like to listen to, and I don't want to change that in any way, but I have to start earning something from it, basically, is the thing, because of the amount of hours that I put into it. As well as that, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link. If you have enjoyed this episode, if you have gotten something from it, if it's improved your life in any way, if I've kept you company, would you consider putting a few euros into that Buy Me a Coffee thing? That would be really cool. I would really appreciate that, very, very much so. I'm really grateful to Laura and Dara Matz for being the sponsor of season 6. I have really enjoyed getting to know Laura. I'm really proud of her. Dara Matz is a brand that I can absolutely get behind. It is Irish owned, woman owned. Laura works incredibly hard to have the most incredible, luxury, non-toxic, beautiful yoga mats that are unlike any other yoga mat you will see. If you haven't seen the ad on the episodes, there'll be an ad in this episode where I show you the mat. If you look at those mats and the suede top on them, I have never seen a yoga mat like it. And with the range of different pictures, imagery, the moon, cliffs of Moher, Poolbeg, all of the beautiful imagery on Dara mats. If you haven't gotten yourself a Dara mat, I would invite you to go and do that for yourself. It's going to be coming into a season in the next few months where we're going to be buying gifts for people. If you buy a Dara mat, you are not only supporting an Irish brand and an Irish woman, which is exactly what our values are, you will also be gifting someone one of the most beautiful gifts that you could give for somebody who is into healing, going to nature. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. And I also think with the range that she has of images on them, I really like to get a gift where somebody has seen me and thought she would love that. And if you know someone who loves things about the moon, you could get them the moon mat. If you know someone who is just obsessed with the sea and does sea swims and loves to be connected to the sea, the seascape yoga mats out of this world. And I know from working with Laura that when she created those, they're not just like images that are printed on mats. Those seascape ones are from another Irish artist, a woman, and when they came back, she was like, the resolution isn't high enough, it doesn't look realistic enough, and it was sent back and sent back and sent back until it was perfect. If you are interested in getting a gift for someone that you love this year, between now and that gorgeous event that happens in the next few months, consider Dara mats. You would do really well to get them a nice gift from there. I'm going to pass you over to the episode now. Thank you for listening to the little intro. I love at the start of my episodes coming on and having these chats with you about things that are important to us and really like connecting with you. I really enjoy that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. I hope you get something from it, and if you are someone that is not meeting your own needs and doesn't know what they are, and it does feel like a threat, to look inside and see how you feel and what you need, I am excited for you for the future. When you start honouring that, it's a whole new world and you deserve it. And remember, you're good enough exactly as you are, Angel. One of the main things that I hear from people is that I wish I preserved their stories. I can't tell their stories the way they did. I can't sing their songs the way they did. Well, that's where Evertold comes in. Evertold is a legacy storytelling platform, essentially a personal podcast, if you will. I come to you with compact recording equipment and I sit with the person that you want me to interview in the place where they are most comfortable, and I ask all the questions that you want asked. I can ask them to sing their favourite song, I can ask them to tell their favourite stories, and you will then have that video recording saved in a beautiful treasure box on a memory key just like this one that can be plugged into any television, laptop for the rest of time. You will never regret doing an Evertold, but you may regret not doing it. So get in touch if you would like your very own Evertold for you or someone you love. and make sure their stories are not lost to time. Healing Gals podcast get a discount, so make sure you quote Healing Gals podcast when you contact me. I'll look forward to speaking to you.
Not rescued for myself, to alleviate my discomfort.
Yeah, because rescued for yourself would be to do the thing.
Do the thing.
To remove any of the struggle that's happening in front of you.
And it looks like I'm doing it for you, but it's because I can't tolerate it. So let's say when you were talking about years ago, that young person that was in the, if that was a group home or whatever that was, and you can't tolerate your discomfort at home, and you are relieving your own discomfort. It's not saying that he's having and I know obviously in this situation he's been through huge trauma, and it's not that he's having a good time in this environment.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
I'm not minimizing or dismissing it. But at that moment when you're at home, you don't know what he's experiencing. He could be having a game of cards with somebody and having, or watching TV, or, but you can't tolerate the discomfort. And so you're relieving your own anxiety, and it looks like it's about the child, but it's not. And it's this, where is your level? What number are you at?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I suppose this is my intention with this episode, is like, I see so much of that behaviour going on in that sector, and I think that those kids need so much. You know, Katie, I don't need to tell you, like, you can imagine they need so much, you know. And I found at different times, like when I was working in social care, I was a social care worker, and then I was a leader, and then I was a deputy, and then I was a manager, and I had my own house. And I found one of the most frustrating things is, like, any bit of progress that you would make with a kid would ultimately, I probably can't say always because that's not fair, but so often the work would be undone because you would see somebody coming in, meeting their own needs by rescuing this kid, or, you know, bending a rule because then they have this relationship with the kid where it seems like they just have a special relationship, but actually that staff member has just broken rules there that the rest of the team are going to pay for now, because the kid is going to say, you're the one, you always say no. He brought me the other day and got me the crisps, and you're always the one that says no. Why can't you be more like him? And you've set up the rest of your team. There's a lot of that in social care, you know. You've set up the rest of your team now for, like, just torture and arguments and conflict and de-escalation techniques and whatever, just because a staff member cannot tolerate the discomfort of telling a child no. Like, you know, seeing the child receive, like, no, I can't buy that for you because you got that earlier on today, we can't do it again. Or, you know, there are some people that in that profession really struggle to tolerate that.
Because they're operating from that fear.
Yes.
Yeah, the internal bear or the external one.
Yeah.
I can't tolerate you being angry because it's the inner child responding here. And also, I maybe don't want to be the mean one. And there can be such validation then for a person in this role, because I'm going to be the special one, and you're going to like me, and I'm going to receive all of this validation.
Yeah.
But again, you're not meeting the child's needs in that instance. No. You're meeting your own.
Because
what you do the child a disservice.
You do a huge disservice. I found it one of the most frustrating things in that sector, you know. Like, what a child needs is consistency, and adults who agree. One of the things that I was working for a company that was really good, and they had this thing called and as much as any social care company can be good, these pitfalls happen because inevitably we have wounded healers coming in, and, you know, and all of the behaviors that we're talking about is playing out in these children's lives and in team meetings and in paperwork. You're reading it and you're like, that doesn't make sense. That's not usually that child's response to that. What else was introduced there? You know, like, to avoid a learning moment, or to that person doesn't like telling that child no, and I can see that what's after happening here, you know. As good as any social care team company can be, the lack of consistency for young people in care is really difficult. We used to have these thing called care approaches in that company that I was working for, and it basically was a document that would be on the child's file, and the staff team would have to be familiar with care approaches as and when they were developed, right? So say for a young person, they would, let's say
if a young person was showing this kind of repeated behavior, the staff team would say, or the key worker or somebody on the team would say, I think we need to devise a care approach around that, because that specific area needs consistency, you know. So let's say, for example, if a child had like some difficulties around food, and every time we stopped in a garage to fill up the cars or whatever, the child would be like quite demanding about like wanting the share bags of crisps, or you know, like wanting like a lot of food, and that is because of trauma in the child's life. So the child is not wrong. I'm not saying that in any way, shape or form. But the staff team would have to put boundaries around food, because the, you know, the consequence of like overeating and all that stuff and being unhealthy and all that. And there would be team members that would struggle to tell the child no around a specific thing. So we'd have to devise a care approach. But often you would find, most of the time you would find a lack of consistency with them, because for wounded healers, we really and I'll say we, because like at one stage I was one. I don't want this to be like an accusatory thing, like these people going into work with these kids that have all these traumas, you know. I think it's a beautiful thing to work with young people, and it's a beautiful thing, I think, to be motivated to give and work with people, but there has to be those boundaries to keep everybody safe, you know. And if for nothing else, then to show the child how to have healthy interactions, healthy relationships with people, you know. What is your perspective on like the difficulties that arise for young people when there's a lack of consistency in that way? I know your background is the parent-child dynamic, but in terms of the need for consistency, what do you think?
So yeah, so my background is, you know, we're looking at the parent-child dynamic, but what you are describing is adults in a parent role as such, and for children that have been denied their autonomy in so many ways, and have been abused, and are in a system and have such trauma. So the level now of consistency is going to matter in a greater way than the level of consistency in a parent-child. And I don't want to minimize that, right? Because if we're talking about a child growing up in a healthy enough environment, and if I'm consistent with my no, and then this day they want the big bag of crisps, and I just say, oh yeah, that's when we're going to do it today, and then I hold my no in that. If you're talking about a child that has grown up in trauma, and so the level of consistency then is going to be more important, because in terms of safety. And then, but we're going to throw in human nature. And do I think in any environment ever, from any profession, therapists, doctors, nurses, hairdressers, are we going to get human error, and are we going to get humans then humaning from their own trauma? And so even with this then, I would look at their behaviour in terms of then in the group and the collective. How does everybody else then deal with that? And then how does management, or what systems are in place then for this person? So where can you advocate and say, here, there's something happening with the chain of command here or something, and then it's difficult. And how does when I think of hierarchy, right, it's the parent in the organisation, your manager, your supervisor. When you go up above, how do they treat and deal with this? Or is there a feeling in that link that you end up resentful, and that you end up having to overstep your role and try and be the manager or parent to this other worker and tell them not to? And then this is where we get unhealthy dynamics in organizational systems. And it's a system, it's a hierarchical system, in the same way as parenting, you know, elders, parents hold the power. And so what happens when the siblings are annoying each other and one comes and tell the parent, or do they have to fight it out themselves, the way we were talking about earlier?
And the siblings in this situation are the staff team.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's to be careful as well, to see, yes, how this one person is meeting their own needs, is operating from a place of fear, is doing a disservice to the child. But I would be looking at this as a whole and seeing what else is happening and where else is happening. It's the same with the abuse at home with the narcissistic parent. If the abusive parent is obviously being abusive, but if there's another parent that actually separates from that parent, takes that child to safety, gets the supports for that child as much as possible, doesn't slate and berate and make the child responsible for their emotional well-being, but does say, yeah, that was wrong. Mommy or daddy shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done that. You don't have to stay there. I'm going to protect you. And be that advocate and that safe place for that parent. That you then in that situation, that just because this other person said yes, I'm not going to say yeah. You're not getting the crisps today.
Yeah.
And again, look at, can I stay? Where is my baseline? Am I down on a 0 to 3?
Yeah.
You can be angry all you want. And I'd be angry too.
Yeah.
It's not changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is where we can, when I make a difference, but not be the savior. And because this can even show up that I want this other person to be perfect and to do the thing because I can see what they're doing, but I don't know where they are and I can't change you. But what system is in place? Can I go to somebody else going, hey, look, just want you to know this thing is happening and it's disrupting the whole thing. And can you do something about it?
Yeah.
Or do I feel like I need to fix it all?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky. It's very tricky. The whole landscape of social care and the staff turnover is quite difficult. You know, like, so there's not like there's a lack of consistency in every section of it. Like, even when we're talking about like, what if you go up? It's like going up.
Okay,
it's
so
very
this is
tricky.
where it's top down and bottom up. Top down is when you're talking about systems, management, government, right? Because these are government funded. Top down, where they're putting in the systems and the resources. And then you're talking about bottom up. Where is our knowledge and what's our responsibility then as the individual, and what can we do, and what change can we make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a really broken system. I want to ask you, how do we stop ourselves projecting our childhood onto the children that we're working with or the service users that we're working with, and play out this thing that we're after describing in the last hour? But I also wonder, does your answer include compulsory therapy for social care workers? Because I just feel so strongly, if we're going to be working in this close quarters with people and we're trying to help them regulate, de-escalate, tolerate something new, and we can't even manage those things ourselves, and we're not even aware that we are not able to sit with the discomfort because of the childhood that we've had or because of the previous experiences that we have. How can we do that without going to therapy? In order to help children feel safe, you have to be a safe adult. And I think a lot of people, wounded healers included, feel like they're being a safe adult because they're not abusive, or they're not going out to harm the child. Their intention is not to hurt the child. But I think when adults have secrets with kids, or I'm going to buy you this but just don't tell the rest of the team, or I think that they are modeling an unsafe relationship in that.
Look, anything got to do with secrets, I mean, that is harmful.
Yes, I agree.
When you're talking about our nervous system, when we're operating from fear, when you were saying that this doesn't look like harm from the outside, but if my nervous system is coming from a place of threat with the bear, I will feed the bear steaks and steaks and steaks. I'm not considering that you might have bought those steaks for your husband and you're going to eat them this evening. This is just solely about survival. So we have to be aware of what's happening and where we're acting from. This is the place of awareness. And there's so many people who have come up in trauma that are intellectually aware of all of this. I know this. I could write a book on it. I could do anything. Like, I know all this. But actually, we ask them to feel anything in their body, and they can't tolerate it. If they're upset, if they cry, how do they talk to themselves? Yeah, don't be so ridiculous. Fucking get over yourself. Stop whinging. Like, just don't let anybody see you. Shame. Like, just bottle it down. Let me eat the big pack of crisps.
Yeah.
And drown it, or drink the glass of wine in the evening. Let me drown my feelings. And so, one is a therapist, right? And lives and breathes this stuff. And would I advocate therapy for everybody? Do I think it's great? Yes. Do I also think that that's unrealistic? And also because there's, like, when we train as therapists, we pay for our own therapy. We actually pay, well, I paid to do my course to become a therapist. So there's such a privilege in that, to be able to tell somebody to have to go to therapy, because when we're talking about top down, it's not available. So when we're looking at change, we're looking at where is the individual responsible and where are they in healthy communities. Years ago, and in other healthy communities or Indigenous communities, there's elders that I go and I can share and I can receive wisdom. Look how unfair that is for all of the adults in individualistic societies, that now any help I need, I have to go and pay for it and not have that. And so this is where we can look at safer communities. And even in this organization, and I hear what you're talking about, how broken and flawed it can be, but the more even that somebody can see that other people consistently hold boundaries, and if there was a management system that would pull her to the side and speak to her, this is where it's a more collective responsibility rather than go to therapy one person.
Yeah.
And some people, like you're talking about then, that overt abusive man that shouted at that other man that had his nails painted. There's some people that aren't willing to look at their behaviour and don't care what harm they cause. And I don't care, so it's only a pack of crisps and I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And, okay, so then what either healthy accountability or consequences are there for that person? And that might mean that their role just might be better suited somewhere else, right? Where can they work better? Because they might have good attributes.
Yeah.
And this is more, do you see the accountability and more community led? And so there is no one easy answer and one fits all in this.
Yeah. I fully appreciate that, and I think the situation that I'm telling you is not specific to one organization.
No.
This is across the sector, and
Yeah.
there's really some difficult things, challenging things happening in the social care sector, and the lack of social workers, and the whole system doesn't work. In my opinion, it doesn't work, the social care system. So I appreciate your nuanced approach to that answer, because it's not any individual staff members. I think the vast majority of people who go into that profession have the absolute best of intentions, but when we're all coming with this baggage that we haven't had to process or learn about, or learn how our past, our history, our childhood, our baggage is showing up in our interactions with the vulnerable people that we are working with, I think that's just such a big problem, you know.
Yeah.
There is also this culture in the social care sector of these shifts. The shifts are so long. Now, Tusla houses did get rid of the 25-hour shifts because they were just too long. A lot of the private houses still do 25-hour shifts or 24-hour shifts. So if you work for Tusla, the shifts are 12 or 13 hours at a time and no more. But in the private sector, a lot of the houses are still doing 24, 25-hour shifts, and you're not guaranteed sleep on those shifts, you know. I want us to talk about the idea of rest when you are a wounded healer, you know, and how difficult it is to rest as a wounded healer. A lot of the people who just can't leave their team in the lurch, even after they've worked over their full-time hours that week, they still take on an extra shift because the team are in the lurch, you know, or they don't want the kid to be without or whatever. Like, I was one of those people. I used to do 120 hours a week. I was gone 4 days a week, 24-hour shifts a week. My own daughter saw me less than the kids that I was working with, you know. And rest was a real foreign concept to me. Now I could win an award for my naps. I love rest now. It's a very valuable part of my everyday life. I see the value in it. Because I see the value in myself and how much better I feel and live when I'm rested. Do you have any thoughts on how wounded healers approach the idea of rest, or if they do at all?
Again, I look at this in terms of hypervigilance. When you're on a 5 or a 6, I can't switch off. The bear's at the window. I see everything that needs to be done. If I in any way sit down, I'll chastise myself as being lazy, or I can't sit when there's jobs to be done. And so where did that come from? How was rest treated in your home? And was it a threat? And so you're
It was.
okay.
It was very much a threat.
And so we're back to the nervous system.
Yeah.
And we're back to, is it safe for you to rest? Because you're talking about, so in the scale that I'm talking about here, the 0 to 10, you're talking about like a 0 to 3 there. I can sit down and drink my tea and something needs to be done and I'll get to it. That's coming from a place of safety. We might call that person chilled or calm, but it's nervous system regulation. And so we have to look at the threat and what is the fear if you sit? What are you avoiding? And maybe you're avoiding feeling anything. Yet you're avoiding sitting with yourself.
Yeah.
What? No, I'll be busier. It's easier to be busier because this is where I get my worth. But if I sit down, I might feel useless and pathetic. I don't want to feel that, right? So this is a threat. So I'm gonna do what I'm familiar with doing. So we're talking about safety, and we heal in healthy relationships. And for a lot of people, the first time they encounter a healthy relationship, is in therapy, when they're met with a therapist, where there's space for you to talk about yourself, where you feel seen and heard, where you're not criticized, where you are treated as an adult, where you are given space, where you learn that you can criticize your therapist and not be berated, where you get to be centered in a very healthy way. And so this might create then enough safety that in your own relationship that you might then think, I'm not crazy. Yeah, my feelings do matter. I do make sense. Yeah. But therapy doesn't have to be the only way that is done. We heal in healthy friendships. We heal in healthy romantic relationships. And there's a lot of pressure that society puts on that the man is going to rescue you. And I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about that if you're sitting at home and your partner or friend is rocking up. How many people listening to this, that their house has to be spotless before their friend comes? Yeah. And then I say to them, well, how would you feel if you went to their house? Oh no, it's different for them. I wouldn't judge them. And it's like, so what's the fear? Well, it's the fear that they would judge me. And so what's the fear of that? Well, they might call me names and talk about me. And go, what's the fear then? Well, then they're not going to want to be friends with me. What's the fear? Well, nobody's going to like me. And if that happens, what's the fear? I'm going to be on my own. I don't want to be. And that generally is tapped into that inner child. I felt so alone. And I have to work so hard to be accepted and get approval. And it's showing up in these ways. So in order to have safety, what it would be like for you to not clean the house spotless before somebody comes. Yeah.
And be okay with it. Tolerate it.
Tolerate the discomfort.
Yeah.
And it will show you who your friends are, by the way, because do you want to be friends with somebody that comes in and is like, oh my God, what is that jumper doing in the corner? Or why is that pile of washing there? It will show you if you have to work so hard in order to be perfect, because it doesn't exist, right? That's what I'm doing, quote unquote, perfect. How much work and effort is that in a relationship? But you have to be willing to and open or curious to actually see. And when you're talking about projecting on, like you're going to treat me like my narcissistic parent. And or my siblings in the abusive dynamics. And it's the fear that, because in those dynamics, as soon as somebody leaves the room, everybody talks about you, right? Because that's what you're familiar with. So then you just assume that everybody's doing that. And am I willing to be curious if this is happening in this relationship? And a lot of people don't want to see it because I don't want to even find out that you actually are that horrible person, because then I'm going to go through grief. So I'm just going to clean my house before you come.
Yeah.
Right? But this, when we're talking about healing, this is, can I do that? And I'm going to be curious and I'm going to be open actually to see if you notice, if you judge what you say. And because this is inward. I now, instead of, I'm focused that I don't want you to judge me or criticize me or say the thing, right? This is all outward. I'm going to be inward and say, what do I think of you? What do I think of you when you come into my house? And if you judge me and say, oh, Jiz, you didn't do much today, did you? What do I think of that? How do I experience you? Are you, like now, if anybody's watching this on YouTube can see that you're looking at me when I'm talking.
Yeah.
Or, well, this is your place, right? Am I looking at you? Or am I scanning and judging everything and having contempt, right? Because your hypervigilance, you're going to notice this in a second.
Yeah.
And trust your judgment. Trust what you're feeling. But instead of trying to avoid the discomfort of this, how do you feel about me doing that? Is this somebody that you want to have in your space? Is this somebody that you want to be friends with? How do you feel around me? How does your nervous system feel around me? Check the next time if that resonated with people when your partner comes home that impulse to get up and pretend that you're busy, and check it. And even when he comes in, can you even bring this up? And if it's too scary to do it in the moment, bring it up. I call this strike when the iron's cold, right? So not in the moment when the fear is so present. So the next day or that evening later on going, do you know, every time that you come home, I am scared. And I know now you're not going to do anything, but I'm scared that I'm going to get in trouble. And I jump up and I start like loading the dishwasher. Yeah. And they might go, what? Or they might go, as you should, right? So is there anger? But if there's safety to say this and then go, I'm really going to try tomorrow not to do that. But can you just make sure that, you know, when you come in that you don't say anything smart or something, like, help me get through this, because I don't want to live on those eggshells anymore. I want to change.
Yeah.
Like, this is about accountability. The time when something happens to me and I don't want to be that burden, right? I don't want to worry a friend and I don't want to be a burden, or I'm scared that it's going to be used against me. Let me go inward and think about this particular friend that I might share with. And what have they shown me? What can I trust that they have shown me consistently? And have they ever done that before? Because trust is built small. Because if they have, okay. Was that years ago? Were they a child, right?
Yeah.
Have they changed? Or have they never shown that? And actually, I really know fundamentally that they really would be there for me. And they wouldn't. I wouldn't have to owe them anything.
Yeah.
And can I tolerate that discomfort to have ease? Can I ask somebody for help? Right? This was huge for me. Huge.
Was it?
Oh my God, I remember even a couple of years ago, I had to, my husband was away, I had to get in, I was getting something wrong with my car, and I was getting a bus to the airport. I don't normally get a bus to the airport. I would just leave my car in the airport, pay for that. But the bus was going at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and there was no taxis where I live going at that hour of the morning. And I had to ask a neighbour that I'm friends with.
Right.
Holy shit. I thought about walking into town, right? I thought about, what can I do? I thought about, you know, will I just go up the night before and stay in a hotel? This fear, right? Because I was like, if I ask them because this is important, I don't want to put them in a position where they have to say yes because I am going to the airport. They're not going to be able to say no. I don't want to manipulate them. Yeah. I wasn't worried about owing them because I knew these people for so long, but I didn't want to put them in a position where they felt like they couldn't say no. Yeah. And then I had to stop believing that I was so powerful, and I had to treat these people like they were adults. Yeah. And ask them and trust them that if it didn't suit that they could say no. And also trust that in community, even if it was a bit of an inconvenience, because would I do the same for them, and had I done different things before? And can I trust that I'm not exploiting them?
Yeah.
I'm not being manipulative. And can I ask simply, yeah, and I even thought I text them so that there'd be space if they thought, and it was like, I didn't go into the whole, I'm really stuck and I really need this thing. It was like, I need to get a bus in the morning. I'm wondering if either of you are around, if there's any chance I could have a lift into town. That was it. Yeah, no bother.
Wow.
I can even feel that emotion. Because I had sat with it and it was such a big deal, I felt my nervous system dissipate, and I felt that emotion of going, oh my God. Oh my God. It could have been this easy. And so this is the part where we have to take accountability to, in bite-sized pieces that our nervous system can handle, that we can show up. You know, people call it show up authentically in relationships. But we have to be aware where we're operating from that fear. And if our baseline is a 5 or a 6, we're constantly in that hyper-awareness. There's a constant fear. And how can we be aware of it, reduce it by 0.5, be aware of it, and work through it in a safe relationship? So this is back to, we have to be able to identify the abuse. Remember the anger, the abuse, because they're not safe. Don't share with them. A narcissistic parent weaponizes information. Like, how do I keep this with myself? The narcissistic parent, even if you're sharing something good, who do you think you are? Yeah, so pride isn't even safe to share. So with a friend, if something good happens, do you keep that to yourself or minimize it, going, oh no, I got the promotion, but it's not that big a deal. Oh, it is a fucking big deal.
Yeah, it's huge.
And can you own that, and can you share that with somebody that's going to celebrate it with you? Because it will pass. You're not going to be delighted about this in a couple of days, right? It'll pass. This will become your normal. But that time, I'm excited about something. Yeah. But a lot of people are scared because it's like, I don't want to let them know how excited I am. They think that it's going to make the that they can avoid the disappointment. Because if I don't get excited, like if I'm going for a job interview, I'm gonna play it down. Oh, it's not that big a deal. I'm going for a job interview, and they think that they're protecting themselves because I'm going to protect myself from the disappointment. I'm not going to build myself up. But if they wanted it, they're disappointed. But now, because they didn't tell anybody that it really mattered, they're not going to have that circle to support them. Yeah, because if I told you, oh, I'm going for a thing, it doesn't really matter, it's not important. And now I tell you, I didn't get it, it doesn't really matter, it's not important. This is where, if you have grown up where you have to read between the lines, you might be reading through the lines with me, but that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Can I be honest in it and be like, hey, I'm really excited about this thing, and I don't want to get my hopes up because I don't want to be disappointed, but oh, fuck, it'd be great if I got it. Yeah. And I might even say it, and don't tell anyone else because I don't want loads of people asking me, because if I fail, I want to fail by myself, but I'm really looking forward to it.
And I want to share this with you, and you're safe to share this with.
And so now when I'm doing the thing, you might text me, good luck. You might text me, thinking of you. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Any of those things. Yeah.
It's so interesting to me that any time we speak about a different topic of the wounded healer, it comes back to tolerating discomfort, being in healthy relationships. Like one of the questions that I have when we're getting to the end of this is like, how do we like pull wounded healers out of this fog that they're in, that they're going to be the person to rescue? But ultimately everything comes back to having a more regulated nervous system, figuring out the awareness that you're at a 6 or a 5 or a 6 all the time, having a healthy community around you. Like, I think that this is really helpful, you know. And when you were speaking there, you were saying you have to figure out first you have to have healthy community, healthy interactions with people, and you figure out first of all, are they safe? If it's a narcissistic parent and they're going to throw things back in your face or whatever, that's not the person to try this out with. The safe husband is that to be sitting down when he comes in from work. And my question to you before you said those things, I was going to be like, how do we decipher who's this? Because when you're in that mode, I would have told you, this person is safe, this person, they love me so much.
Yes.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong again.
Yeah.
No, like, so, but I think that's really interesting what you're saying. Like, think about if you have good news to share them, will they be happy for you?
Yes.
If you tell them something vulnerable, have they ever, think evidence-based. Have they ever used something against you before?
Yeah.
Have you got any other ways that you figure out?
Have they ever followed up? So let's say you shared something, this thing happened to me at work yesterday, the day before, right? Has a friend then ever 2 or 3 days later, oh, how did you get on with that thing at work? Right? Because I listened to you, that matters. Have they ever shown that they're interested in you? A lot of relationships and people where there's all self-gain, they can ask you a question just for you to answer it, but really I want to talk about me. So let's say that I might say, how was your holiday? Right? And you're telling me blah, blah, blah. And I'm nodding. But ultimately when you finish, I go, yeah, because I was on holidays and we went to this, that and the other and we had a great time and blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
And this is very different. Normally when I talk about this, loads of neurodivergent people jump in and I'm ADHD myself going, no, well, I'm only sharing my experience. That is very different because we will typically go back and go, but anyway, tell me about when you were at such and such, right? Even look at my eyes lighten up, like I'm interested and you're feeling that.
Yeah.
So am I interested in you? Or when you're talking to me, do you get a sense that you feel unimportant and that you don't matter and that you're being silly and stupid? And actually, is that because I'm uninterested? All right. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I might look at my phone, right? I'm not interested in what you're saying. And again, this is not the one time if you're in the middle of a conversation, I pick up my phone and look at a text. This is in general. How do you feel about the person?
Yeah, in their company.
Does the person ring you and ask you how they are? Or do they only ring you when they want something? How does the person treat you when you say no? Is it safe to, or are you going to be punished in some way? No, that's grand. No, yeah, you're fine. I'll get someone else. And then they don't phone you and you're discarded for a while until they need something again. That's not safety.
Yeah.
That's not safety. So again, we're going inward. How do you feel in these situations?
You know what I wanted to ask you? You spoke about, a few minutes ago you said something and I was like, that's a big shift, gal. You said, what do they think of my home? To how do I feel about them? and how they show up in my home. How do you change that mindset? Because that's a big shift.
So one, we're back to the 0 to 10. Where are you? Because if you're in hypervigilance, I am constantly scanning you as the threat, as what are you doing? What are you seeing? I am gauging you. Are you happy? If you're happy, I'm happy. Are you mad because I need to fix it? Like, what do you need? I need to make sure that you're okay. So I'm operating from a place of threat. And so now let's even look at, what is the threat? What can you do to me? Let's say you do go back to my friends and say, Jess, you'd want to see her. And by the way, you can say this if you come to, like, there's many loads of washing there waiting to be done. Yeah, there is.
There's a reason why you were only allowed into this specific room.
Right? But what do I believe about myself that I don't want you to see? Because if I believe that I am dirty, lazy, unproductive, and now I don't want you to see that, because I don't want you to think about me the way I see me.
Oh.
Yeah. And so this is where, again, it's all coming from us. Because if I'm absolutely fine with it, and now you're going and you're even judging me, and I can be able to, and I'll be like, you what?
You don't mind me.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's not, and if you're going to slag me, or I can trust my feelings. This is one of the biggest harms. And as I say that, I'm like, Jesus, there's loads of them. But the narcissistic parent, an abusive parent, partner, person, will take away the individual's trust in themselves.
Yeah.
I can't trust my own feelings. I can't trust my own perceptions. I'm overreacting. I'm imagining it. Am I going crazy? It doesn't make sense. When I go back to them, they're telling me X, Y, and Z, and I'm so confused because that's not making sense.
Yeah.
If it's not making sense, that's one of the signs of an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in a healthy relationship, if me and you, if I'm saying something here and it doesn't make sense, and then you say to me, Katie, that's just not making sense. Can I ask you blah, blah, blah? I will clarify, and it should
And it
make
will
sense.
make sense. Yeah.
But if every time you're coming back to me saying like, Katie, you said this thing and it's not making sense, and then you said this and you did this and it's not making sense, but you told me that you care about me and it's not making sense. The confusion is the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. You shouldn't be confused in healthy relationships. Yeah. There might be something misspoken once or twice, but again, do you have the trust to bring that to me and be like, hey, Katie, what did you mean when you said that? Like, I'm wondering, when you said, did you ever do what? Like, I didn't like that joke. Do you trust that you can bring that? And how am I going to respond when you're not happy?
Yeah.
Well, I say, oh shit, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that was a comment. I didn't mean it. I won't say it again. Yeah. Or do I say, don't be so ridiculous. Jesus, Hugh, you're so sensitive. Right? Ultimately, do I gaslight you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I've had experience of this in my personal family, but also I had a partner who I was eternally confused. Yeah. And I, like, now one of my main advice to, like, young people that I was working with or whatever, I say, if you're ever confused, run. Just run. Yeah. Like, you shouldn't be confused. So it's actually really validating for you to be like, confusion is the point. Because you're just like, a lot of times as well, I speak to people and they're like, I raised this thing with my partner and then we end up fighting about this other thing, and then he brought up this other thing, and before we know where we are, like, I don't even know where to start now, because there's loads of things that we're fighting about now, apparently. Yeah, I find that really sad. Yeah.
And so this is the part going inward. And when we meet somebody new, because the hypervigilant, the wounded healer, the parentified child, the fawn response, when we're living in that hypervigilance, that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, you will be able to spot the person that is wounded, that has harm, that has anything from anxiety, depression, low mood. And here is the part that you can recognize that and have empathy. But do you think that your love can heal them and that you can fix them and make them better? Do you think that because you can see the best in them and their potential that you can get them there?
Yeah.
That's the part where you're acting from that part.
Yeah. The part of you that was told you're after ruining the whole day for the whole family.
Look how powerful you are.
Yeah, look how
powerful I am.
The illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the part where I can save somebody, like this, I mean, yeah, savior complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, martyrdom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is savior complex common in the wounded healer?
It's this part where I will be in servitude to you and sacrifice all my needs. But you're trained to do that. You're told to do that. It's not safe to be any other way.
Yeah.
This is where such compassion is needed, because the child was surviving. They have been through so much, had to tolerate so much, and this is the only way that they could survive with the bear. The difference is, because we've never had safety to learn out who we are, we think that this trauma response is our identity. This is just who I am. This is my personality. No. If you don't know your wants, needs, preferences, boundaries, you don't have a personality. Yeah, okay.
Jesus, Katie.
Sorry, is that too harsh?
It's so like profound. And that was like when in our last episode you said people pleasing is not a personality trait, it's a trauma response.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Yeah. That's gonna land with a few people, you know. It's that, if say that again, if you can't identify your boundaries, wants, needs.
Your wants, needs, preferences, desires, boundaries. You don't have a personality. This is identity. Yeah. Because what I want, this when I talk about this, I see when people say, oh my God, that's absolutely me, that's absolutely me.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, when I talked about the phone response on Instagram and TikTok, people used to say to me, you know me so well.
Yeah.
And I do not want that responsibility, but I own it, right? Because this is where this could be weaponized, and I could be the guru and the savior. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I know your trauma response. I know how you survive in trauma, because it's predictive. Yeah. It's also predictive how abusive people abuse, because it's all about dominance and control, right? And when you know that, but I don't know what lights you up. I don't know what music you like. I don't know what movies you're interested in. I don't know what you're passionate about. I don't know what food you don't like. I don't know what holidays you like.
Yeah.
I don't know what clothes you want to wear. But if you don't know any of these things either, you don't have an identity, which will mean that you can nearly need other people to live, right? Because I don't know me. I can't sit down and tolerate me. It's not safe.
That's so sad.
Yeah, but this is so sad, but this is the grief of what it is growing up with a narcissistic parent.
Yeah.
It's not safe in any way to explore these. And in a healthy enough environment, the child is not just allowed, but given. The child does this naturally. Yeah.
They naturally have their no.
They naturally have their no. And they naturally then explore, experiment in teenage years, and they do this in safety. And yes, parents have limits. But what the adult child of a narcissistic parent is, it's not only, because we were constantly evolving, right? I'm not the same person I was in my 20s or 30s. I'm in my 40s now. I hopefully I'm going to grow and change and evolve and different in my 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
But it's not only that, because the adult child of a narcissistic parent has to unlearn what they were told about themselves, and they have to unlearn who they were told they were.
Yeah. I have found that to be true, that there's a lot of unlearning what I thought was right. And I find that from the patriarchy, from society, but yeah, from my family of origin as well, unlearning. Like, something that my family says about me is that I'm messy, right? Now, I don't think I am messy. I think I'm actually very clean. Things get, untidy or a bit cluttered from time to time, but I would regularly do a big declutter, and not a big declutter. I would see my rooms after getting a bit untidy, and I would take great pleasure in putting everything back where it is and putting on my lamp and pulling it. I enjoy a tidy space. I would not characterize myself as a messy person, right? But in my family of origin, that is part of my identity. They told me that, and now, as an adult, whenever I'm not in touch with my mom, my brother, or my twin anymore. I have an older sister and we have a lovely relationship. But say up until a couple of years ago, when the relationship with those family members ended, whenever any sort of joke about something messy came up, they were like, "Oh, Molly, such a thing." And I used to just be like, I don't think they know me. Do you know, because I really like a clean house. My house is really clean. There would never be dishes piled in the sink or whatever. Not to judge anyone that does. I actually find this really interesting. My friends have the dishes come up and I do that once a week because I hate it. I'm like, good for you. That's what you like. I don't have that. That's not a part of the way that my house runs week to week or whatever. So whenever. And there's other things as well. There's other parts of me that they would comment on and say, that's what you are. if they would label me something, I was like, I don't think they really know
The
me very well.
narcissistic parent projects all the things that they don't like about themselves onto a child.
Oh,
Yeah. So this is where when the narcissistic parent says, you're selfish, you're cold-hearted, you're lazy, you're mean, you're manipulative, they're telling on themselves.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, my question is, I wonder who is the messy one in the house?
Yeah.
And then in deconstructing, and I think you've done it there because you've deconstructed actually even what the word messy means, because there's nothing wrong with being messy. There's no moral attachment to being messy or unmessy. And so if you are messy, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And even there, if somebody leaves dishes in the sink, what I hear is just they're operating from a different system.
Yeah.
That's not messy. But what I'm hearing is a judgment.
Yes.
And contempt from, that's you, that's who you are.
Yeah.
And this is a weapon to beat you up with, no matter what the thing is. And so in the same way where we were talking earlier to identify abuse, identify contempt. Because the word messy is neutral. Yeah, you can be messy. I can be messy.
Yeah.
That's neutral. But what is the contempt attached? Because contempt is where we, it's disgust, where we like typically like snarl, turn up our jaw. Like think if you got a rotten smell of something, ew, right?
Yeah.
That's over. But contempt is, yeah, you're messy. Yeah, you'd never pick up after yourself. That was you at home, right? Contempt, mocking, humiliating, jeering, sneering. And in narcissistic family systems, this is just communication.
Yeah.
This is just how we communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's being able to identify the difference of that and neutralize the word, because there's nothing there's nothing wrong with messy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt the episode, gals, but I have to show you my mat. This mat depicts the cliffs of Moher. It is stunning. I wanted to show you this mat in person because I just don't think the photos do it justice. In my opinion, one of the best things about these mats is that number one, it's machine washable. I bring my mat to the forest all the time and she is in the machine and she is like brand new. Can you see the shine on that mat? That is because this mat has a suede finish on the top. It is thick, bouncy, tea colour rubber, so it's non-toxic. But look at the finish. When your bare skin is on this mat, it does not stick to the mat. The imagery is absolutely stunning. Once you put it down, it's down. It's not moving. Listen to my podcast for a while. You will know I am a champion of women and women in business. Dara Mats is an Irish-owned, woman-run business. These mats are designed as a one-time purchase, so you will not be replacing this mat every few years. This is a lifetime purchase. This is an investment in your practice. It is an investment in your day, and you will not regret buying yourself one of these mats. They're also a fabulous gift for someone if you have something special coming up. So if you want to invest in yourself and buy yourself one of these gorgeous mats, go to daramats.com and Healing Gals listeners get a discount. Enter Healing12 at the checkout to get 12% off your very own Dara mat. Now, back to the episode. I definitely think, I think that's really important, that unlearning. I don't know what I thought this conversation was going to be, but I'm fascinated that ultimately when we explore any element of the wounded healer, it comes back to unlearning, identifying their needs, getting in safe relationships. I find that so interesting. I also wonder, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you can cut this out if you want, but I wonder if you thought, because there was the part where you were identifying, let's say, the problematic person, for want of a better word, and how do we rescue them? If they're the wounded healer, how do we rescue them, show them maybe what they're doing wrong? How do we fix this? Wait, am I still at it?
Yeah, but it... And this is the part. And in narcissistic family systems, I mean, you've broken away from that, because how often did you think, or did you, this is a question, did you think, if I just tell my brother this way that this happened, or if I just show my sister this way, or if they just understand this, like how can I enlighten them and show them actually how damaging it is, and how can I save or rescue them? Yeah. And that comes from a place of love and care and a deep desire to want to save the relationship. Yeah. And there can be a truth in that, right? That I do want to protect them. But if we look at our own wants and needs, I also want to avoid the grief and pain of me walking away, because fuck, that's so hard. And we think it's unbearable. We think I can't tolerate
I
it.
thought it was unbearable at one stage. I thought I'm actually not going to be able to bear this. I remember like close to the end of the relationship, there was like, this has happened in our family like a few times, this huge like breakdown, this huge like not talking for years kind of thing, you know. And when it was happening this time, I just saw it start, because I think I was more aware of things. I think before I was just carried along a wave, you know, whereas like now I'm not in the sea, I'm on the sand.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Identity.
yeah, oh my God, yeah.
I know me. I know my edges.
Yes.
I know where I end and you begin.
Someone else begins. Exactly. Yeah.
That's healing.
Yeah. Hey, yes, girl. But I remember like when it was all falling apart, I was standing on the sand and I could just see the wave was taking them, you know. And I was like, oh, Jesus. So I remember like we had a family WhatsApp group, as like, you know, is a lot of the case with families. And I was like, this thing is happening. I'm seeing it. This is what I'm seeing. And I was like naming all the behaviors and things that I was seeing. And I was watching my mom divide all of us as siblings, you know, and telling everyone a different version of events, or a different version of the truth, in inverted commas. I do acknowledge that people experience the same situation differently, so I understand.
I understand,
but
what you're saying.
that's not what this is exactly.
It's triangulation.
It's triangulation, yeah. So I was watching my relationship with my brother like drift from me, and I saw him having sort of contempt for me about a couple of things were coming up when I was. If I was out with him and we were having a drink, things were coming up, and I was like, whoa, whoa. Wait, what did you say? What do you think happened there? Tell me from that again. And I'd be like, no, that's not what happened. And I would go to my mum and say, why did you tell him that happened that way? Mum, I'm not 14 anymore. You can't tell a version to one person and go around, you know that he's angry with me now about this. Like, our relationship is actually affected because of the thing that you've told him. And she'd be like, oh, I must talk to him. I must. And I'm like, yeah, you better correct that like ASAP. Like, you're affecting something really, like, my relationship with my brother was really important to me, you know. So when I could see these things happening, and then it was like what I was saying, I wasn't having any effect with my words at one point. And so then I said, okay, we're all drifting from each other. We're heading towards a territory we are very familiar with, and there's going to be a breakdown for a few years. I'm watching it clear as day happen in front of me, as if it's a movie, because again, I wasn't in the wave. I was standing on the sand, so I didn't feel I'm being swept up in anything, but I could see them being swept up, you know. And I was sending like there was one voice note that was over 6 minutes long, I was thinking, if I, like what you just said, if I just explain it in this way, they will understand, they will come back to me, they will. And that was probably the voice note that they were all just like, she's nuts, fuck her, you know. And that was the end of the whole thing there. But I did feel at different times, if I say it in this way, they'll get it. If I just go to his house and speak to him on his own, without the influence of other people, if I just look at
the hope. Look at the hope. There's still hope.
Yeah, you know.
There's hope that
if
we
I
can
look,
have a healthy
if we're eye
relationship.
to eye, he won't be able to deny me. You know, he won't be able to say I'm making it up, because he'll see the whites of my eyes and he'll see that I'm telling the truth. Doesn't matter a fuck, gal. Doesn't, in that family system, it doesn't matter a fuck.
And that's in the book that I co-wrote, that's what we talk about, the toxic hope. Actually, when is hope toxic hope?
Stop.
And when is it a form of self-harm? Yeah, that I keep going back. Or imagine if this is a wave and I can see the wave, and I think the wave isn't going to impact me, but how much am I going to sacrifice myself to stand here and shout and to try and rescue you?
Yeah.
And at what parts do you have to take accountability, and at what part do I have to walk away, and how painful that is?
Yeah.
And this is also all part of healing. And that grief that you felt, that is so devastatingly painful. And that's why the nervous system wants to avoid it, right? I want to protect myself from this. And because that grief, when the child is not allowed to have felt any of that sadness or disappointment, this can be huge and so overwhelming, and people can have such a fear that they're going to drown in the grief, right? So I don't want to feel it, so I'll go back to them, please listen and hear me, because I don't want to feel this.
Yeah.
And this is also healing. I call this period the cocooning period. And funny, on the podcast the other day with Ruth, she was like, that sounds really lovely, Katie. It's really not lovely. And I was like, no, sorry, you're right. Yeah, this is not. But what I mean is that this is a real time where you are going inward and feeling it. And
Yeah.
yes, there can be huge loss of motivation, willing to do anything. And at this time, do we have any healthy community at all around me?
Yeah.
If I can't access therapy, can I access Samaritans? Who can I reach out to? What do I need? What are my needs? Rest, because burnout here, huge.
Yeah.
Sleep is huge. When we're coming out of that trauma response, right, that adrenaline, we're talking about a 5 or a 6, but if somebody's always up in that 7 or 8, and that does not mean that they're the aggression, narcissistic, rage, abusive like somebody else. This is in a constant state of hypervigilance. When I come out of that, my body's going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
Exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
collapsed, like a sack of spuds, like just being emptied. And so, yeah, how do I treat myself in those times?
Yeah.
It does, it all comes back to that. And all of this is healing. And it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And the actual hard part, the hard reality, and even there you're seeing me like I'm like, will I share this? But I think it's important. It's lifelong.
Yeah.
You don't go through lifelong abuse, grow up in a home like this and heal it in years. Daniela Masternak-Young, she talks about this, that when you leave abusive, she talks about cults, the narcissistic family system is akin to a cult, and she talks about post, like after you leave. A lot of people think that I'm healed then when I leave. And she talks about the 10 years of deconstruction. And that's what you're talking about here, actually recognizing systems and deconstruction. And in that, gaining more freedom, gaining more autonomy, gaining more awareness, having more joy, having more pleasure, having more fun.
Having more peace.
Having more peace. And also accessing the grief and feeling the depths of the devastation and the pain and the loss and the empathy for the younger self. We can't have one without being able to feel the other. And so, that's all healing, and it takes time.
I would like to add that I am having a much nicer life now.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't have any
hope. I love that.
Yeah, I don't have any shame for that. I think maybe it might sound hurtful, or you know, one of the I did an episode of the podcast after I got married. I can't remember if we talked about this the last time. After I got married, I woke up the day after my wedding, and literally it was like just a myriad of thoughts came to me, and I didn't have my journal beside me, and I literally just took out my phone and started typing into the notes app, and it was just like all these thoughts. You don't need your parents, you need parental figures, and sometimes you're the parental figure, and all these things about like how the realization, I've never had a dad. I obviously he was somewhere, but he chose not to be there, and my mom didn't want to have a relationship with me for a few different reasons that in my opinion aren't my fault. And
it's not your fault.
Yeah, thank you, gal. I don't think it is. I'm pretty certain it's not. And so I did an episode then shortly after the wedding and said, I've learned this thing, like you don't need your parents. I think I thought I was going to die without her, or I thought I was literally going to die without them. I haven't died, and actually I've had a fucking great wedding, and I would have thought whatever about getting through day to day without them, you won't be able to have a celebration without them. That's for fucking sure. But then when I did, and I still had a great time, I was like, oh.
I didn't have to prioritize them. I was able to receive the love that people had.
Exactly. I actually don't need them. I wanted her. Like I don't think anyone grows up and's like, I don't want a mom. I don't want the support of a mom, a healthy mom. I don't want that, you know?
Most people want that mother figure, that nurturing figure. But a lot of people that grow up with a narcissistic mother, they don't want their mother. They want a mother. The ideal mother, the thoughts of a mother, and they're grieving the mother that they never had and they wanted.
Or that they thought she could be.
Yes. Yeah, back to that toxic hope. And so here, like in therapy, so I use EMDR, and for EMDR, because this younger part that doesn't has no example, or what does that mean to be mothered or nurtured, right? So the fear of leaning on somebody, asking for help, I don't have that. It's like as foreign to me as you telling me to speak Chinese. I don't understand what that is. Like I can't access that. I never learned that. And so we resource these figures, the ideal mother, the ideal father, and even for a lot of children, adult children of narcissistic parents, that word is even too jarring, right? Because the ideal mother, no, my mother thought she was fucking perfect, right? She thought that she was the ideal one. So it's actually, right, so even that word mother is too jarring. A nurturing figure, a protective figure, a wisdom figure.
Okay.
And so can we resource them? And we can within us, to give us this sense of safety. Again, nervous system safety, that I am safe, sitting here resting, whether somebody's going to pull up or not.
Yeah.
Can I have that safety? Can I be curious about what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I put that episode out, then eventually I reconnected with my mum and tried again. It didn't work. The behaviours were ongoing, so nothing worked. She was not willing to tell the truth to my siblings, so we're just at a stalemate, you know. And I said, well, listen, if you're not going to correct any of this and this is going to be ongoing, I don't know how you think we're going to have this relationship, so, you know, whatever. But when I did reconnect with her, she said that was very hurtful to hear that that I said that I don't need her and I don't need my mum, you know. And I just said to her, like, thank God though, are you not happy for me that I didn't need you? What if I did need you? What if I actually felt like I cannot breathe without her? Do you not want me to be alive? Like,
do I exist separate from you at all?
You know,
like, a narcissistic parent, you don't exist separate.
She, like, I would have thought, like, if ever I'm not there for my daughter, she's 18 now, but through the years, there's times where I didn't get there in time, or, you know, there's things that I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but like a period or, you know, whatever. If someone else is there for her and meets that need for her, I'm like, thank you. Like, she got the care, even if it wasn't me that gave it.
Because you're not operating from a system of dominance and control.
Yeah.
Now imagine, and you're going to have to imagine this because this doesn't come naturally to you. Imagine if you want dominance and control over her. Now imagine how you feel that she went to somebody else.
Yeah, I can see how that...
Angry, right? But I'm going to have to... This is, people ask, you know, and you asked actually on the podcast the last time we had that, are they aware that they're doing it?
Yeah,
and I'm
that
like,
was one of the biggest ones.
Do they do it in public? Because if this is an incident and you're not there and they ask for help, how do they respond to the person that helped? Oh, thanks very much, and that's great. But then the child is punished when they get home. So they know what they're doing is wrong because they don't do it in public. And they blame and shame the child and manipulate the child that they did something wrong. Why couldn't you wait? And this is typically you, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or a completely ignoring parent, that I don't give a shit, that I don't turn up and I don't care about your wants and needs ever.
Yeah. It was jarring. It was like, whoa. That was like from the things that I had learned up to that point, that was like a confirmation that, like, I think she would rather if I needed her and suffered all these months, you know, instead of finding a way to move on and still enjoy my wedding, still enjoy my life, still enjoy my day to day, you know.
And this is the part that you're talking about, the freedom, the other side of that you get to exist in all your totality.
Yeah. So for the wounded healer, the goal is finding a way to figure out their identity, understand what is personality and what is trauma response, and living in safe community, healthy relationships with people, so that when they go to do a profession that they're clearly skilled at and great at, that they're not doing so from a place of fear, rather doing so from a place of empowerment and a full self. Yeah.
And when people hear that, that can be quite overwhelming. And so it is breaking it down to the earlier examples, or breaking it down to what would you prefer? Like, where is your no? Where can you say no today? Is that the cup of tea? Is that no thank you, you don't want to do something? Breaking it down into those manageable pieces that your nervous system can tolerate.
Just coming back to knowing yourself and being safe in your own body. Amazing. Katie, we could be here all day. I love speaking with you, gal. I appreciate your time so much and all of your wisdom and your expertise. I'm no doubt that this episode is going to have an impact on the gals and the 8% men that are listening. You're welcome. Will you tell us what have you got going on at the minute? I know that you're working on something.
Yeah, so I have my own podcast that's still there, Beyond Survival, where I talk about all this stuff. There's solo episodes. I talked about the fear, obligation, and guilt. They're the next 3 episodes that I'm doing. But that quiz is still there available it is geared toward parents to recognize where their number is. And I do have a parenting course. So if anybody goes to my website and if they don't let the fear lead. And if they want to go and just even check it out, and if they have any questions, come and ask me, because you deserve support.
Yeah.
You deserve support, and this can change. The whole time when we're talking about this, it is we're talking about the devastation and the pain and the grief, and you talked about this, the other side, the hope, the fun. This is in our own relationship with our kids, that you get to have more ease, that you get to enjoy them, that you get to turn down that alarm system and be in a more calmer state with them, that you're not as easily to tip over the edge and to lose it, that you get to be the child, be the parent that your child wants to share with and come towards, instead of bracing themselves. And you get to hold limits without being overwhelmed by guilt or overwhelmed by their anger. And you get to have more ease to be able to hold boundaries and ask them to do the thing that they have to do. Empty the dishwasher, do the thing, without it turning into a complete shit show and ruining the whole evening. And then in turn, the next time it needs to be done, you just think, it's easier to do it myself and I won't bother. You're in that loop. So yeah, go to my website, katiemckenna.ie, and it's all there.
Amazing. katiemckenna.ie. Gal, thank you so much. That's another episode. Thank you, Katie. Amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, how amazing is Katie McKenna. What a gal. What a wise, fabulous, generous gal. Mad about her. In case you haven't been able to tell, mad about her. I'm gonna leave you there, gals. I hope you have a lovely week. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. I hope you got a lot from it. I certainly did. And keep on exploring. Keep on bringing those awarenesses in. Keep on working on bringing that number down. You deserve it. You certainly deserve it. I'm certainly living a better life because I have, and I want that for you too. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy your week. I hope you treat yourself very nicely, and I hope you remember that you're good enough exactly as you are, and you deserve a great life. Bye, angels.